What's up guys? Welcome back to another video. Thank you again for tuning in. We've got a lot of work to get done today, so let's get straight to it. Okay, the main goal for today is to get this car back on the ground, which means getting the diff welded back installed, getting the manual drive shaft back in, getting the exhaust back on, putting the shifter in, and probably some other stuff I'm forgetting. So we're gonna start with the diff. We got it out here, perched up on some jack stands. We're gonna get that thing drained, pop off the back cover, clean it up, see if it's an open or a LSD, and then go from there. All right, just keeping it real with you guys. I've welded a lot of diffs in my time, but not any LSDs or VLSDs or whatever you want to call this. I know a lot of people don't even weld them, but I've seen quite a few people that do too and have had good results, so I figured I'd give it a shot. My tactic here was just to weld anything that looked like it moved together. So you'll see in here, there, well, you kind of can't see, but the spider gears are in there. Spider gears are what you would normally weld together on like an open diff. So I figured, well, I'm gonna weld those to the case on either side. And then there were some moving parts on this side that I think were like part of the spider gear. Honestly, I'm not totally sure, but I think I got it all and I think it's gonna work. At the end of the day, if it blows up, I'm really not gonna be that sad. It was kind of an experiment to begin with.
The next day.
Good morning, guys. It is the next day and little deviation to the plan here. I know I said I wanted to get this thing back on the ground, which meant focusing on the diff and all that stuff. But I got a little distracted. I really want to get the intake manifold on and get the top of this motor covered back up. But I couldn't do that without getting the wire harness figured out. And for the life of me, I just couldn't figure it out. I had the main harness here coming in and wrapping around the motor because that just made sense to me. But after looking at a few Z's, some pictures online and stuff, you can see the harness comes in and then does a 180 and shoots across this way. And now everything seems to fit. I know you can't really see much, but like this metal bracket in here bolts on right there. You see I've got an ignition coil plugged in. So we're headed in the right direction. I think I can get this harness at least in the right spot and then toss the intake manifold on, which will be a big step. Okay, this is not how I expected today to go. I really haven't gotten anything done on the rear end, but take a look at what I've got done on the engine bay. So the intake's still not on because I have to figure out the PCV system and haven't got there yet. But the wiring harness is totally on. All the coils are hooked up here. This is for the O2 sensor, but all that stuff's on. Coils are all hooked up over here. This O2 sensor actually is hooked up as well. This guy on the front's here, comes around, bolted on there. I got this big coolant hose on. Got the thermostat housing on and this coolant hose on. So a lot of progress, getting closer and closer a little bit at a time to getting this thing ready to fire up. One thing off the original list that I was able to check off was getting this shifter in. Check this out. We have a shifter and it works. Okay, one thing I have to get done tonight is getting this diff sealed back up because my garage just smelled so terribly of gear oil all night, and this morning I've got to do something about that. So we got the cover all cleaned up, the diff all cleaned up. So let's get some silicone on there and get this thing bolted back up. We're gonna get a little ambitious here and see if I can throw the diff in by myself. We got our diff in. See the solid, the bushings up there, bushing back here. And me being the very intelligent person I am, forgot to fill it full of oil. So we'll be doing that under the car now. It's the next day, or evening rather. I'm a little tired from being at work all day, but I figured we'll chip away at the project one little task at a time. And I got a new tool, and so I had to show you guys. I finally bought a little O2 sensor remover. If you don't know how these work, let me show you real quick. So if you've ever tried to remove an O2 sensor, you know that they're a total pain. They're always in a really hard to reach spot. Well, with this socket, with a little hole cut out on it, you can slide it in the wire just like that onto the side. And then, it's kind of hard one-handed, and then it works. Well, with the O2s on, I can get the rest of the exhaust on, starting with these cats. All right, the cats are on. It was a pretty simple little job. Well, with the cats on, I realized I don't have the gaskets to get the rest of the exhaust on. So kind of bummed about that. It's gonna have to wait till tomorrow. But with that, I'm gonna turn my attention to the back here. Since I got the subframe on, I haven't put the brakes back on, or the coilovers, or a few other things in this area. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that up so at least I can call this job done. Brakes and coilovers are back on. I did adjust the coilovers while I was back here. I'm gonna go into detail on coilover setup and adjustment and things like that in another video. So if you're interested in that, be sure you're subscribed. But for now, I would say the back end of this car is pretty much buttoned up. I still have to toss the rear sway bar on. Can't really see much, but I took the sway bar off to get the diff in. It just made it a whole lot easier. So I just gotta toss that back on, but I'll probably do that off camera because it's really simple.
The next day.
And we're back for another late evening after work to wrench on the Z. I'm pretty tired again. I probably will only work on it for a few hours this evening, but hey, a few hours here and there is a lot better than not doing anything. So with that being said, it's time to get the drive shaft in. I don't remember if I showed you guys this or not, but I got a used manual drive shaft. There's a slight difference between the auto and the manual, so I had to pick this one up. And with the rear end in, we can finally toss this drive shaft in and then move on to the exhaust. Got the e-brake cables hooked up, the drive shaft installed, and the rear sway bar thrown back on. So now we can move on to getting the rest of this exhaust back on. Shout out to the dude at AutoZone who actually gave me the right parts. It's a big surprise there, but as you can see, these are the right gaskets. Got the Y pipe bolted on, ready to go. Before I slap the rest of the exhaust on, I've got one more thing to do. Well, as you saw, I just cut the exhaust in half, so that is great. This car came with a muffler delete using stock tips when I got it, and that's not really my style. I don't like things that look stock. So we're gonna change it up a bit, and we're gonna do it for super cheap. Let me show you how. So obviously I just cut the stock exhaust. Let me show you what it looks like underneath the car here. So that's totally a stock exhaust. Just chopped there, right where the it's split into the duals here. And then this is fence post from a hardware store, 30 bucks for 8 feet. And it is 2.3 inches in diameter, which is really similar to the factory exhaust size on this car. It's also similar to a lot of other exhaust sizes. So if you want to do a really cheap DIY muffler delete yourself, fence post is the way to go. So because I'm going from a dual to a single exit exhaust, I didn't want the bumper to look dumb, so I did what they call a bumper tuck. Let me show you what that looks like. So pretty much the center piece that kind of splits where the two openings are is now tucked up underneath. Literally just used some self-tappers, zipped that up. Looks pretty good. Now we've got room for our exhaust right here. While I'm down here, I just want to show you that this exhaust is exactly the same size as the fence post. Cracks me up. I knew it was close, but I didn't know it was basically identical. It's kind of hilarious. All right, fence post exhaust is done. I'll probably end up trimming that down a bit because it does hang out of the bumper a bit more than I thought. And at the end of the day, this really isn't a permanent solution. It's just something I wanted to do. I thought it was pretty cool for 30 bucks, and it looks a whole lot better than the factory dual tips, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Do you think this is ghetto and total hack job? Or do you think for 30 bucks, it's a pretty cool little piece? Either way, guys, that's gonna be the end of tonight's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching. As always, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.